Be very afraid. One life-sucking Metroid survived the first Metroid adventure, and it's multiplying rapidly. You must help Samus save the universe again in Metroid 2. So we're giving you more power and mightier weapons to search a bigger world where hundreds of strange enemy life forms lurk. Destroy or be destroyed.
Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, only on Game Boy.
The future is in your hands.
So if you've been following my Metroid series so far, you might remember me stating that Metroid 2 was the first game I ever beat as a child. I spent countless hours playing it and was absolutely enraptured by its mix of exploration and gameplay. It made a mark on my younger self that is actually still around today. But is it as great as I remember? Because admittedly, I haven't beaten this game in its original capacity since the early 90s. With the plethora of games at my disposal at any given time, it's been really hard to rationalize jumping back into something I've deified for years. So, come with me on my trip back through my first Metroid game, Metroid 2: Return of Samus. But before we delve into my opinion on it now, let's take a step back and learn a little bit about the development of this minuscule masterpiece. Metroid 2 was developed by Nintendo R&D 1 and produced by Gunpei Yokoi, both of which also worked on the previous Metroid game for the Famicom and NES. It was directed by Hiroji Kiyotake and Hiroyuki Kimura, and designed by Makoto Kano, with Takahiro Harada serving as the main programmer. Metroid 2 marked a new high point for handheld gaming consoles, with graphics that were almost as good as the 8-bit graphics in games for the NES. The game was planned to feature enhancements from the previous title that included easier controls, which would allow Samus to crouch while firing at the same time and jump while shooting straight down to attack anything below her. The game utilizes the cartridge's battery-backed memory for saving the player's progress, which after the NES was a blessing. In the 2004 interview for the Nintendo Dream magazine, Kiyotake revealed that the planet SR-388 was named after the Yamaha SR-400 motorcycle, which I just learned while scripting this. The Game Boy's black and white graphics necessitated changes to Samus's gear that eventually became standard for the character's design. You see, in the original Metroid, color was used to differentiate between Samus's power suit and her Varia suit, the upgraded version. But without color on the Game Boy, the two suits would have appeared similar, requiring the developers to include a visual indicator for players to determine which suit Samus was wearing at the time. They also updated her Varia suit, adding round metal shoulders that have been a part of the suit in every Metroid game since. Metroid 2 was released in North America in November 1991, followed by the release in Japan on January 21, 1992, with Europe following on May 21st of the same year. This actually makes it one of the rare Nintendo-developed titles to release in the US first at the time. It shipped 1.72 million copies worldwide by late 2003, which as far as Game Boy goes was a moderate success. So of course, Nintendo included the game in its Player's Choice marketing label in North America in 1993. Metroid 2 even got released on the Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console service in 2011, and is currently on the Switch Game Boy library as well. In the events of the first Metroid, bounty hunter Samus Aran foiled the Space Pirates' plans to use the newly discovered life form known as Metroids as bioweapons. Sometime after, the Galactic Federation resolved to ensure that the Metroids' powers could never again be used by the Space Pirates, and then sent several teams to the Metroids' home planet, SR-388, to destroy the species once and for all.
This made a lot of people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move.
When all the teams predictably disappeared, the Galactic Federation contracts Samus to finish the mission. While exploring the planet, Samus encounters the aforementioned Metroids and begins her squishy genocide, slowly decreasing the planet's Metroid population. During her mission, she notices the mutations that each creature exhibits. The Metroids grow from small jellyfish-like creatures into large, hovering abominations. After destroying all the planet's Metroids, Samus then kills the Metroid Queen. Samus then proceeds to return to her gunship through the planet's tunnels. Along the way, she finds a Metroid egg. A Metroid hatchling floats out of the broken shell and imprints onto Samus, thinking that she's its mother. Unable to commit to her mission of extermination, Samus spares its life. She exits the tunnels while the Metroid helps clear the way. Reaching the planet's surface, Samus and the infant Metroid board the gunship together. Metroid 2 was another action-adventure side-scrolling game in which the player controlled Samus Aran once again. Players advanced through the game by using Samus's weapons to kill all 47 Metroid creatures, which have had a bit of an upgrade this time around. The player is given a detector that displays the number of Metroids remaining in an area. Once all the Metroids are eliminated in that section, an earthquake occurs, and the planet's lava levels decrease, allowing Samus to travel deeper through its tunnels. The Metroids are encountered in different evolution stages of their development cycle, including the original, Alpha, Gamma, Zeta, and Omega. Each form has its own health and damage values, so at least they feel unique the first time you fight one. More on that later. Metroid 2 also features save towers located all around the planet, which allow players to save their progress and continue later if they need a break. The game features the same weapons as the original, as well as 2 weapons new to the Metroid series: the wide-firing Spacer Beam and the Plasma Beam, which passes through enemies when shot. Samus can only equip 1 beam at a time, but she can switch between them by returning to where they are found. Metroid 2 also added the Space Jump, a new suit power-up that allowed Samus to jump infinitely and access hard-to-reach or otherwise unreachable areas. In addition, this game was the first in the series to feature the Spider Ball and the Spring Ball. The Spider Ball allowed Samus to climb most walls or ceilings, which opened up SR-388 quite a bit, and the Spring Ball gave Samus the ability to jump while in the Morph Ball form. All this combined, making a much more fleshed out game than the original, but still one that is not without its own issues. Metroid 2 was a great looking game for the Game Boy, when you could see it. The screen, while not optimal most of the time, struggled to keep things visible in this game. And all those awesome evolutions of the Metroid basically boiled down to just being spongier and dealing a bit more damage. And let's not forget that once you fight a new one, be ready to fight 7 or 8 more in a row, because they have no real variety towards the end. I genuinely have nothing negative to say about the Queen though. Still one of those epic final bosses for a kid to break his teeth on. A lot of this game's best moments are when you first encounter something, like new areas or a new enemy, but the downtime of exploring is hampered by the fact that it's a Game Boy game with little to do but move forward. Most items are right in your path, or somewhere very near, and it's probably the most straightforward game in the series, maybe only caught up to barely by Fusion's hand-holding. But we'll get to that one in time. I feel like I'm tearing a family member apart, but the fact is that it, like the original, is hampered by the fact that Super Metroid eventually released. It outclassed them so much that really the only people who even play this one nowadays are the people who grew up with it. I've never been able to get my kids to play the originals, for example, but they really like Super Metroid in all the one sense. It's just too archaic to hold up to modern examples of the same game design. It's a classic, one I hold in very high regard, but as a gamer these days, you have to really want to beat this one to stick it out. It's still special to me. Nostalgia demands I pay it its dues. But it's just not that fun anymore. I couldn't even bring myself to finish this time, knowing I've got Samus Returns and AM2R on the horizon. But it's still a great memory, and always will be. Anyways, this has been Death, and if this is your first time viewing, and you like what I'm selling, consider hitting that like and subscribe. This is part 2 of a full Metroid retrospective, and we will be back soon with part 3, Super Metroid. So until then, take it easy, and level up your life.
Hi, Game Boy! アメリカで人気抜群のアクションソフト、メトロイド2を紹介しよう。あのメトロイドがぐーんとパワーアップしてアイテム充実、敵キャラだって最高にエキサイティング。ゲームボーイソフトメトロイド2。
Metroid Homeworld.
Be afraid. Be very afraid. One life-sucking Metroid survived the first Metroid adventure, and it's multiplying rapidly. You must help Samus save the universe again in Metroid 2. So we're giving you more power and mightier weapons to search a bigger world where hundreds of strange enemy life forms lurk. Destroy or be destroyed.
Metroid 2, The Return of Samus, only on Game Boy.
The future is in your hands.
Tu es en danger de mort. Une créature Metroid a survécu à l'aventure originale Metroid et se reproduit rapidement. Tu dois aider Samus à sauver l'univers une fois de plus. Metroid 2 te donne plus de pouvoir et des armes encore plus puissantes pour trouver ce monde infernal où des centaines d'étranges créatures ennemies se cachent. Détruis-les ou elles te détruiront.
Metroid 2, seulement avec Game Boy.
L'avenir du monde est dans tes mains.